Let me call the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, November the 14th, 2017, having duly called the meeting to order. I'd like to ask if you would to join us during the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Councilwoman Judy Albert will lead the council in an invocation.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may join us in prayer if you'd like. Dear Heavenly Father, we again come to you thanking you for your gracious goodness. We pray that you will be with us this evening and that you will guide us and direct us as we make decisions. Let anything we say, anything we do, only be pleasing to you. In your name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
We do indeed thank you for being with us this evening. We, as you can probably surmise by the crowd we have this evening, have a number of things that are going to be going on this evening. And so we thank you for joining us. We will take an appropriate and sufficient amount of time after some of these events to allow you to step out of the meeting. I know that there is homework and supper and other things to be taken care of tonight, and we don't want to detain you from any of that. Ms. Duncan, do we have anybody to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir. With
that, then, we'll move to the minutes of the council meeting from October 24th, 2017. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council? As we do from time to time, we have some special recognitions that we want to make this evening, and the administrator is going to join me for this. Let me read the resolution number 15-2017, and then we would like to recognize the employees that I am going to identify from the resolution. And the resolution says, whereas the City of Greer endeavors to recognize and reward its dedicated and faithful employees, and whereas Penny Ellis has served in the police department for 5 years, Thomas Kickler has served in the fire department for 5 years, Christopher Montgomery has served in the police department for 5 years, Thomas Petty has served in the recreation department for 5 years, excuse me, Ann Pitts has served in the municipal court for 5 years, Brandon Prino has served in the police department for 5 years, Paul Ward has served in the police department for 5 years, Jolima Earl has served in the administration for 10 years. Joel Galley has served in the police department for 10 years. Michael Sell has served in administration for 10 years. Steve Owens has served in administration for 10 years. Jody Norris has served in the fire department for 15 years. Randall Ballinger has served in the police department for 20 years. Perry Bowen has served in the police department for 25 years. And Scott Keeley has served in the fire department for 30 years. Whereas these employees have served in a distinguished and professional manner, now be it therefore resolved that the City Council of the City of Greer, South Carolina, in a meeting duly assembled, wishes to officially recognize and commend to these employees for the distinguished and dedicated service which they have performed. Be it further resolved that the City of Greer hereby rewards these dedicated employees with a certificate of appreciation and an administrative day off with pay, approved this, the 14th day of November, 2017. Join me in a round of applause for these employees, please. As we call your name, if you will, join us up front. Penny Ellis. Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay with us for a minute. Thomas Kickler. Christopher Montgomery.
Thank you, sir.
Ann Pitts.
Okay. Appreciate you, sir.
Brandon Prino.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Paul Ward.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yulima Earl.
Thank you. Appreciate what you did.
Joel Galley.
Appreciate it.
Mike Sell. Steve Owens. Jody Norris. Randall Ballinger.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Perry Bowens.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Scott Keeley.
Appreciate it, Scott.
This is part of your Team Greer. Give them a round of applause. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You'll have to Photoshop yourself in.
Well, I should have read my agenda better. I need to get back up there again, don't I? So, next event that we're going to have this evening is the 2017 Giving Thanks Student Art Show winners. Robin Bayuk and the good folks at the Greer Cultural Arts have presented this program for us, and we would like to celebrate with and for our winners this evening. How many years have we been doing this? A while? I thought so, because she knows to put it in real big print for me to see. We've got 3 categories, and we will do them individually. So for the elementary category, our honorable mention this evening. You'd rather do it the other way? All right, our honorable mention this evening is Natalie Horton. Natalie, if you'll come up, please. Stay up here with us. Stand right there. Here, right here. It'd be great. Our third place winner is McKenna Brown. I saw y'all sitting together over there. Congratulations. Thank you. And she's got something for you. Our second place winner is Kaylin Smith. Congratulations. And our first place winner is Emma Kate Smoke. Congratulations. All righty, let's get some pictures and give these folks a round of applause. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate it. All right, in middle school, our honorable mention is Julia Olacia. I saw somebody move back there, so oh, she's on her way. Okay. Congratulations. Thank you. Third place is Micah Schaffner. Our second place, Eliza Warrington. Congratulations. And our first place winner is Dan Ty. Okay, Dan didn't make it. So join me in giving these folks a round of applause. Our last division is the high school division. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of this artwork outside. It is, this may be one of the best years that we have had in terms of entries. I've got 2 favorites out there. I won't say where they are, whose they are, but I don't know that I could have picked between those 2. So we have got some just excellent artwork out there. And honorable mention goes to Hunter Spearman. Third place went to Chelsea Bain. Second place belongs to Mackenzie Adams, and I believe Mackenzie's with us this evening. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations. Mackenzie, you get to say you were the grand prize winner because you were the only one here. So. And first place goes to Laura Brown. Give all those folks a round of applause.
you were speaking in.
Saw it on the agenda.
You wrote it.
So with that, we will have the administrator's report. Mr. Diggers?
Thank you, sir. A couple items that I do need to share with you. One of those is a update relative to the format of your agenda. You will notice under executive session that we have made a modification to the language and how that is being presented. Over the last several meetings, when we have identified executive session items, I have at that point identified the area, the section of South Carolina State statute that allows for that executive session. Upon advice of legal counsel, we are now including that information on your printed agenda. That information obviously is being shared with the public for those items that are in your regular meeting as well as the items in executive session. What I would call your attention to in that item, you'll notice that under executive session, we identify specifically that item that we will be discussing. We give it by title, referencing the subject matter as well as the code section. One of the things that we will be asking for a member of council when we approach that portion of our agenda is that that motion would actually be stated in its entirety by a member of council so that it is recorded as such in the official minutes of the city as well. So you will see there that it says that it would be a motion for council to enter into executive session to discuss contractual negotiations between ACE Environmental and the city as allowed by section 30-4-70 A2, paragraphs A2. So when we are at that portion of our agenda, I would request that a member of council would actually make the motion in its entirety. That way it will be recorded as part of our minutes as well as recorded both on the AV and recorded in the official minutes of the meeting as well. Certainly want to make sure as part of our efforts for complete transparency in the operations of our municipality, we are glad to make sure that we are making these modifications to our agenda at this point and moving forward. If there are any questions about those, I'll be glad to answer that. But I think you'll be seeing these types of changes across the state. Obviously, we want to make sure that there's an item in executive session that you would be taking action on after the executive session, that item was clearly identified and published as a matter of discussion for the elected body. So this, again, is our effort to make sure that we're giving full disclosure, full transparency to the public on all matters that are being discussed by council. Our state legislature, in their wisdom, certainly recognizes that there are matters that need to be discussed in executive session. They are identified and outlined in statute, and that is why we will be identifying that as well of what qualifies for your ability to discuss that matter in executive session. So I appreciate your understanding and your support as we continue to move forward in this transparency effort. One of the things that we wanted to make you aware of as well, in your mailboxes this evening, you will note that there is a bookmark that has been placed in your mailbox. But we are sharing that bookmark with all of our employees throughout the city because it's an opportunity for us to celebrate and have a homecoming of such to one of our own that will be coming back to the Greer community to do some professional development in a number of our departments on Monday of next week. Our police department will start off the morning with an educational session with our former police chief, Dean Crisp. Chief Crisp will spend the morning with us there. We will then have a session with emerging leaders that he will conduct, and then our leadership team will be involved in an afternoon training with Chief Crisp as well. You may be aware that Chief Crisp is an author of a new book, and that book is called Leadership Lessons from the Thin Blue Line. I can tell you that this summer when it was announced that his book had just been released, I immediately purchased a copy to my Kindle and I read it on vacation. Dean used to work for me. I wanted to know what he had to say. He was very kind to Greer, and kinder than he was to maybe some other places that he had spent some time. But it is a compilation of his experiences as an officer, as a police chief, and as a trainer. We are very, very glad that we are able to welcome Dean Chris back to Greer on Monday of next week, and especially in recognition of his efforts in assisting us in our professional development efforts during the day. We are hosting a reception and a book signing for Dean here at City Hall, and that will take place next Monday from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. So I certainly hope that you can join us for that reception. We will be providing a copy of Chief Chris' book to all of our employees. We think our team members will certainly gain something from that work. Again, I had the opportunity to read it when it came right off the press. It is an impressive piece of work. Dean did a really nice job in encapsulating his years in law enforcement, and provides as a perspective as a law enforcement officer the leadership skills that are needed for the rank and file, as well as for an officer and for a chief. Again, we're looking forward to spending time with him on Monday in training, and we're especially looking forward to spending time with him Monday evening from 5 to 7 here in the Event Center at Greer City Hall. Please plan to join us if your schedules will allow. And Steve did a really cool job on the nice little bookmark as well. So we're very, very pleased with that. Looking forward to that effort. There are some things that will be happening here in the community as well. Our Christmas at Greer Station kicks off that first weekend in December. So as we approach Thanksgiving next week and roll into the week following, you can see that it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas outside. Decorations are being hung. We are getting ready for that celebration here in Greer. The weekend of December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, starting that Friday evening with our citywide tree lighting program and welcoming Santa to downtown Greer. Then, of course, Santa will be joining many, many children Saturday morning for breakfast with Santa. And then on Sunday, we have the great honor of working with Greer Relief and the fine folks there as they host our annual Christmas parade in downtown Greer on that Sunday at 2:30 p.m. So a very full weekend for us here in the community, December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Looking forward to ushering in the holidays. Our Employee Appreciation Breakfast will follow the following week. That is the Friday, December the 8th. That will begin at 7 a.m. for coffee and conversation, and breakfast at 7:30. This is an annual celebration for us with all of our team members to say thank you to them for a productive year, for a year that has been highlighted with awards and celebrations and events. New team members that have joined us over the year, and some team members that are celebrating very, very special milestones in their career. So we look forward to our Employee Appreciation Breakfast. Again, it's that Friday morning, December the 8th. We'll have some additional information coming to you on that as well. Later in your agenda, as you will consider second reading of our bond ordinance, I will go ahead and say that as part of that, I will ask Michael Kozlark to come to the podium to answer any questions you may have relative to that second reading. But we are also very pleased to announce the results of our bond rating relative to this issue as well. And it is good news for us to share with you, good news for us to share with our community. And last but not least, if I may take the liberty of also recognizing the efforts of members of our team with an award, I'll ask the mayor if he again could come around, and I'll also ask Mike Sell if he could please join us in the front. Well, my first official duty as a vice president for the International City and County Management Association is to present an award to one of our member cities. Us. They said, who could present? I've got an idea. Very, very exciting.
Present our show.
This is an award that we take very seriously here, and I did want to, on behalf of the International City and County Management Association, present this certificate. It says this certificate of achievement is presented to Greer, South Carolina in recognition of its use of performance data in local government management, including training, verification, and public reporting. Presented at the ICMA Annual Conference, the 103rd Annual Conference in San Antonio, Behar County, Texas, on the 25th of October, 2017. On behalf of the Executive Director and the President of ICMA, Mike, I present this to you for your hard work in performance management, and Mayor, to you as leader of our city, and recognizing on behalf of ICMA the good work that you guys are doing.
Well, that goes to Mike. It's got anything to do with work. Mike gets it.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and, you want to, please explain a little
I mean,
bit
it's,
about that.
you know, it's not just small group of individuals, it's our entire team that contributes to performance management and what we do on a daily basis in trying to make sure that the work that we're doing is that we're returning the investment that our residents make in our city, paying their taxes and fees, and we're trying to provide services in the manner that's the most efficient and effective way possible. We couldn't do it without all the team, all the council, and of course our leadership. But it's a good award. It's very few. I think there's 35, 40 municipalities throughout the
International.
country that receive this recognition in one way or another. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. That concludes my report.
Thank you, and I will add to Mike's comments just very briefly. It is indeed an honor for us to receive that award. For many of you that are in business or are familiar with business, we measure the bottom line and a lot of things about the monetary end of things. We do our financial report. If you've been with this report before on a regular basis, and continue to look at that. But we made a very intentional effort a number of years ago to make a commitment to measuring the satisfaction of our customers, which are the citizens of the city of Greer, and to do that in a way that we could validate their satisfaction with those services. And it gives us a way to measure our performance and the satisfaction of the citizens in the way that those services are delivered. And it also gives us a way to address issues when they are identified through the survey. And I think that is a great piece of what we do in terms of our customer service and how we run the city. We use a lot of different types of matrices and means to do those measurements. It does involve a lot of time, and Mike has done a yeoman's job in terms of heading that up, as well as our strategic planning and other initiatives as well too. But all those things go hand in hand, and he has done a terrific job of managing all those different pieces. And so hats off to our staff and to our department heads that are here tonight, and others who have been a part of this. I know that when we started doing this several years ago, I am sure there was some angst among the department heads and others about what might be uncovered and how it was going to be reported. And I think what they would tell you today to a person is that it has made us better as departments and better as an organization, and that as we have not necessarily watch those scores climb, because many of them have been good from the very beginning, but at least bump up through the years. It's indicative that our organization sees this as a valuable tool throughout the city. And so thank you all for all the work that you do to make that happen. Council, thank you as well, too. You have played a big part in this, approving funding and time to be spent on that, and looking each year when we take time to do some planning to tie all of this together with our strategic planning to make sure that none of it happens in a void. And so I thank you for your vision and mission in this as well, too. With that, then, we are going to move to appointments of boards and commissions. As you are aware, we're getting towards the end of the year, and there are a number that need to be filled. We will quickly go through these as we do. Any additional information you need in regards to that, Ms. McCormick is with us and may even have ideas or suggestions if you need to bring something up in that regard. But want to make you aware of those positions that need to be filled in most cases by the end of the year. Ms. McCormick, you have anything to add to that at this point?
I have spoken with Thomas McAbee. He does desire to serve another term. Reporting his attendance of 20 meetings in his term, he was present at 19 of those meetings.
Wow. Okay. So on the Board of Zoning Appeals, District 3, if you would like to nominate Mr. Thomas McAbee, you can do so tonight, or if you would like to do that at a later date or bring another name, you can do that.
I'm actually going to hold just for probably to our next meeting.
All right. District 4 has a current opening, and I believe you've got some information at your desk this evening in regards to that. Mr. Demis, you want to give us an oversight of your nominee?
Happy to. Tonight I'd like to nominate Robbie Septon. Robbie is the next best thing to Kevin Duncan. It's actually his brother-in-law. Kevin is going to be moving on to help Greer Development, and so we're very appreciative for his service on the Board of Zoning and Appeals, and look forward to having Robbie. Robbie's a great guy. I've known him for years, served with him at the church, and sharp guy, communications grad from the University of South Carolina Upstate, and it's just been a real strong member in the community, and I think he'll serve us well on the Board of Zoning and Appeals.
That serves as a nomination. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Floor is open for any discussion or questions in regards to this appointment. Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Ms. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. District 6 will have an opening on the Board of Zoning Appeals that will, the current term ends at the end of the year.
Hopefully have somebody in December.
All right. Speaking of District 6, we will take time to congratulate Councilwoman Judy Albert as she fills the seat currently in District 6, and will do so again, having won re-election to that position. So we want to congratulate her and thank her for her service and now continued service. We appreciate it. Thank you. Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals, George McCall's term expires at the end of the year. Ms. McCormick, is this, does the Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals, is that one of the boards that needs a specific background in terms of expertise or
My
not?
understanding that it does. Ms. Helms, our building official, staffs that board, but I believe that they are appointed for specific purposes.
Okay. Council, if you have anybody that you may want to consider on that, we will need to get some additional information regarding potential background and expertise for this particular position, and that can come from Ms. Helms or Ms. Duncan. If you can get us some general information and send it to council in regards to what qualifications might be pertinent to that position, it may help us be thinking about somebody to fill that position. I'm assuming it is at large.
It is, and it's my understanding that Ms. Helms spoke with him, and he did have the desire to continue to serve. It is a professional appointment.
Okay. Well, if that is the case, then we will ask for information from her in that regard. Okay. We'll move to the Greer Development Corporation Board of Directors. Mr. Riley Bettis, who sits at this table's term, expires at the end of this year. And if anyone has spoken with Mr. Bettis about his desire to return to that seat or to to relinquish it to somebody else at this point, we'll entertain that motion. Or
Obviously, there are no special requirements for this. If it is council's desire, I'll be more than happy to continue service on a board that is really very rewarding. It's really a pleasure to serve with all the people on that board, and thanks to Reno, you get a lot of good things done.
Mr. Bettis has indicated his willingness to continue to serve. He cannot nominate himself, so we'll leave the floor open for a nomination.
I'll make the motion that we renominate or nominate Mr. Bettis for another term on the Greer Development Corporation Board of Directors.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions in regards to his service or to Mr. Deaton about Mr. Bettis' service? That might be even more interesting. So we'll hearing none. Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council on the Planning Commission, we have an at-large position. Kevin Tumlin has resigned, and that term ends 12/31/2017. I will have a name for you at the next meeting for the at-large position on the Planning Commission.
Mayor.
Yes.
Regarding the Planning Commission, I think that I've had some discussions with my appointee, and I believe he's going to be leaving the city, moving out of the city at the end of the year, and so I'm going to have to appoint someone. I need to know, is that appointee, do they have to come from the district?
Yes.
From the district? Okay.
Answers that question. We were unsure about that, but now it has been answered. You may want to have that person officially submit a resignation when they know that that is indeed going to take place, so you can begin that process. Recreation Board, Association Board of Trustees will have vacancies in District 1, 3, 5, and at large. Ms. Cunningham is with us this evening. Any information to offer in regards to Districts 1, 3, 5, or at large, Ms. Cunningham, in terms of the Recreation Association Board of Trustees?
Well, let's see, District 1 for Amanda Summers and District 5 with Shelley Brown, they've actually served 3 terms, and they can no longer serve. Not at least another term, they can always come back after another 3-year period. We're certainly grateful for their 9 years of service. They've done an outstanding job. So those 2 will have to be replaced. Ms. Holmes, I think, is just 1 term, so she is eligible to return. And then Mark Metcalf, I believe, Mayor Danner, you've already spoken with Mr. Metcalf about
I am. Yes. Okay.
Is this from the district also? Or is this at large? I mean, just from anywhere? Do you know?
It is from district.
From district.
From District 1, 3, and 5.
But 1 and 5
Oh, yes.
have to be filled. District 3, we'll need to find out whether or not Ms. Holmes wants to continue. The at-large nominee, Mr. Mark Metcalf, has spoken with me, or I have spoken with him. He would like to continue service on the Recreation Association Board of Trustees. I'll nominate Mr. Mark Metcalf to fulfill another term.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for questions. Hearing none. Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
I will say, we do have some recommendations if you're wanting, so I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Great. That's always of value to us. We appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Duncan, would you remind us, please, of upcoming dates? I believe we only have two more meetings in this year. So we have the meeting at the end of November, the 28th, and then we'll only have one in December,
The 14th.
the 14th. So council, be aware that we'll only have two meetings in terms of filling these seats before the end of the year. So just keep that in mind, please. Let's move to items of old business, the first of which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 39-2017. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Randy Vaughn and Donna Davis located at Westmoreland Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of R10 for said property. Ms. McCormick, any new or additional information in regards to second and final reading of ordinance number 39-2017?
No, sir, none at this time. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to receive.
Motion. Excuse me.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions? Comments? Discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. We have the second and final reading of ordinance number 40-2017. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Sherry Sutton, Scott Satterfield, Casey Satterfield, and Cody Satterfield located at 612 Westmoreland Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of R10 for said property. Any new or additional information, Ms. McCormick, in regards to ordinance number 40-2017?
No, sir, not at this time. Thank you.
With that, then, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Floor is open for discussion. Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Last item before us is old business. This is the second and final reading of ordinance number 41-2017. This is an ordinance providing for the issuance of general obligation bonds in one or more series, tax exempt or taxable, and the allocation of city hospitality fees and city accommodation fees and other city revenues to be used under a plan of installment purchase financing to fund one or more capital projects, including a city parking garage, infrastructure, streetscaping, and related public projects, authorizing the city administrator to prescribe the form and detail of the bonds, providing for the payment of the bonds and the disposition of the proceeds of the bonds, providing for borrowing in anticipation of the issuance of the bonds, providing for the creation of one or more entities to assist in the installation purchase financing, providing for the disposition of property related to the bonds, providing authority for the city to reimburse itself for expenditures prior to borrowing and other matters related thereto. Mr. Michael Keslaret, who is our consulting attorney on this project, has joined us this evening and will be bringing us information and update in regards to ordinance 41-2017.
The agenda was going so smoothly. I told Mr. Triggers before the meeting that I'm not one of those attorneys that needs to be in front of council unless there are questions, so I will give you the very good news, and then I will be happy to take any questions, and then I will leave you to the remainder of your 3 more pages of agenda items. As Mr. Driggers said earlier, as sort of a preamble and a foreshadowing, unlike David Seifert at the last meeting where he said the most important words you could hear, which is there should not be a tax increase related to this, and he stole my thunder, Ed, on the other hand, decided that he would let me say the good things. The city did go through its rating process with Standard & Poor's, and yesterday morning we received news that out of a possible AAA rating, which is the highest rating that any rating agency gives, the city received a AA. That is 1 notch higher than the city had most recently been rated several years ago. So again, it was previously a AA minus, it is now a AA. For those of us who remember grade school, obviously the minus is worse than the regular, and a plus would be better than that. So that's the next thing to head to, and then once, if we can move up at some point, then of course the absolute gold standard would be 3 A's. I don't know why they can't just use A, B, C, D, and F like everybody knows, but they do it their own way. What that means is, as we anticipated, and I sort of foreshadowed at the last meeting, the higher the rating, the lower the interest rate. So that is certainly good news. I cannot give you a rate at this point. We would anticipate pricing the bonds the 30th of November, assuming nothing in the market is going unusual. And at that point, we'll certainly be able to come back at the next council meeting and provide any additional update. As I said, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I have the principal bond documents here. If you want me to walk through them page by page, I'm happy to do that. You all might want to go get coffee. But if not, again, I certainly can answer any broad questions. I know 2 of the council members were not here. But as I mentioned at the last meeting, this is very similar. This is a Greer Trust borrowing the same way that this facility was paid for. Again, very similar to what has been done before.
Council, questions or comments in regards to the bond, its issuance, our rating, any of the items included in the ordinance?
What range do you think the interest rate would be?
I hate to make that guess. Certainly with a AA rating, that is going to be better. Rates have been down, amazingly enough. For whatever reason, the market, the municipal bond market, and please understand, is a very different market than people often think of when they think of stock market, or they think of money market, or mortgage market, or anything else. The municipal bond market moves a little bit differently. And strangely enough, the announcement of the tax plan for both the House and the Senate caused people to put money into the bond market, which of course means as more money goes into the market, interest rates go down because there's a flood of cash. More people are willing to lend. So as of right now, rates have moved probably 20 basis points, which is 0.2%. They have moved in favor of lower interest rates, which is good. Who knows in 16 days when we price whether that will have corrected, or if whatever new announcement from Capitol Hill comes out will adjust that back up. If I had a crystal ball, I would not be standing here. I'd be on a beach or something.
Others? We appreciate your work, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council will move to items of new business, the first of which is the bid summary on a new dog kennel. Police Chief Matt Hanby will join us for that presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you're aware, the Police Department provides the services of animal control, and we're currently operating out of a facility on Buncombe Street, which has reached the end of its useful life, in our opinion. There are many structural issues in the building, plumbing and electrical issues. So we have been in the planning process of looking into replacing that building over the last couple of years, and as a part of that planning process, we requested funding for that, which you have allotted over the last couple of years. We consulted with architect firm about a custom constructed building, and over a period of time looking at cost analysis, we looked at we kind of reevaluated the direction we were heading and decided that the most efficient way to acquire the type of facility we need would be by purchasing a prefabricated, pre-constructed building. So we, in the process of assessing our needs, we developed a set of specifications and placed those specifications out through the assistance of our finance department for a request for bids. We did receive only one bid. This was from Horizon Structures, LLC, out of Athlin, Pennsylvania, for the price of $51,980. This is for the structure only. There will be some other items that will have to be taken care of, such as plumbing, electrical, some site work, concrete work, that type of thing. So this will be for only the purchase of the prefabricated building itself.
So this building does meet the specifications that we were looking for, and it would be well within the budget if we stay on schedule. I believe we'll be way under our original budget of allotted funds for this project. So we on the staff are recommending and request that you approve that purchase.
Council, upon the recommendation of staff, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for questions of Chief. Comments? Discussion?
Chief, this is not just for our dogs. This is for any dog that comes in through animal control.
That's correct. It's not for when you say our dogs, you're referring to
officers?
not our
canines.
No,
Officers?
absolutely
Right.
not those, no. They have a home at the officer's home.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so this would be for dogs that we run across on, loose dogs mainly, dogs that have bitten people, that kind of thing. We keep the dogs for 5 days before we transport them to Greenville County Animal Care Services.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item before us this evening is the first and final reading of Resolution Number 14-2017. This is a resolution to accept Red Croft Phase 2 subdivision streets, namely Ashdale Way, Cranwell Court, and Rockmore Way into the City of Greer Street system. Mr. Steve Grant, City Engineer, will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Red Cross Phase 2 is located off Westmoreland Road, south of I-85 in Council District 3. That's the pink highlighted streets that you see are the ones in question. This project started grading about a year ago, and here's some recent pictures. You can see all utilities are in, the streets are paved, and 3 or 4 houses are under construction. Staff has inspected the construction, and we believe it meets city standards. Therefore, staff recommends that Ashdale Way from its intersection with Red Cross Drive to its end at the cul-de-sac, a length of approximately 1,151 feet, and Cranwell Court from Station 110 to its end at the cul-de-sac, a length of approximately 1,171 feet, and Rockmore Way from its intersection with Ashdale Way to its end at the cul-de-sac, a length of approximately 1,278 feet, be accepted into the city street system for ownership and maintenance.
Council, upon the recommendation of staff, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions of the engineer?
What is, at this point, what is the percentage of build out there?
In Phase 1, which was about 90-something lots, this is a 91 lots as well. Phase 1's probably 80 or 90% built out, so it's selling well. And like I said, they've already got 3 or 4 under construction in this phase.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. We also have the first reading of ordinance number 33-2017. This is an ordinance amending the City of Greer Code of Ordinance, Chapter 35, Flood Damage Prevention, in Article 1 in General, Section 3510, Definitions, Article 2, Administration, Section 3531, Designation of Local Floodplain Administrator, Article 3, Provisions for Flood Hazard Reduction, Section 35 through 51, General Standards, Sections 35 through 52, Specific Standards in Section 35 through 53, Standards for Streams without established base flood elevations and or floodways. Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. The South Carolina Department of Natural Resources performed a community assistance visit on August 9, 2017 to assist community officials with the implementation and administration of the local floodplain management program and to evaluate Greer's status as a participant in the National Flood Insurance Program. So it was essentially an audit of our floodplain management program, and the results were very good. The only suggestions from the audit were ordinance language updates. FEMA has changed certain sections of the state model ordinance and requests that we update our ordinance to maintain compliance with theirs. You should have a copy of the changes in your package. All the changes were small and technical in nature, 1 or 2 sentence changes, text changes. There was 1 definition change, 3 language updates, and 2 deletions of certain language. Staff recommends that we amend our ordinance to comply with the state model ordinance.
Council, this comes before you as ordinance number 33-2017. As an ordinance will require 2 readings. Do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion.
Under section 35-52, where it strikes, I guess that's paragraph C, does that not get replaced with anything? I mean, what, so if you have a stream crossing?
No, it doesn't get replaced.
So what?
It just gets deleted. Apparently they felt that language is not necessary.
So there will be no crossings? Is that what that's replaced with?
I do not have the ordinance, the entire ordinance in my hand, so
Mr. Area, would you want to
hold on a second.
Well, it
read that
reads,
section?
What's been stricken says, it's an entire paragraph, stream crossings for any purpose, and then it has in parentheses, timber harvesting operations, if temporary, shall be permitted in accordance with floodway requirements of subsection 5. Otherwise, the development shall comply with all applicable flood hazard reduction provisions of the article.
Right.
So what do they have to comply with if they're making a stream crossing? Because that is definitely something that I'm sure we have to face when they're clearing for new subdivisions where they have to cross streams.
Right, but this mainly deals with building homes in the floodway, in the floodway. Not necessarily culverts or roads, mainly just housing structures or commercial and residential structures.
Okay, so if to get to a home you have to build
a bridge,
or is it just not allowed?
No, it'll be allowed. We just have to comply with section 35.3, which we don't have the whole thing in front of us here, but they just want to remove that. I guess it calls out the part about timber harvesting. They felt it was unnecessary to call that out, so it goes back to the general section 35-3.
So there are other parts of this that refer back to stream crossing?
Under 35-3, yes, sir.
Might be best for clarification if we take first reading tonight, and if you all will address those questions specifically to the engineer. That way we can reference the other sections that we don't have before us tonight, and that way we can clear it up before second reading or at second reading. Okay?
Any others?
Others?
I just have a general question. In your estimation, these changes that we have to do these, right? There's no, in order to maintain what we are, we have to make these changes.
It's best to, yes, sir.
Well, it's not required.
Right, they recommend it to maintain compliance with FEMA.
Okay. My question is, do you feel that this is increasing the cost on the developer or on the builder to institute these new roads?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
The base flood elevation that's set, I know that's a really important piece for insurance purposes. I mean, is that really why we're monitoring and maintaining this, to make sure they're not building in floodplains?
That's correct. And base flood elevations, I mean, they have to comply with those in general anyway. I mean, these are just some text changes, better defining certain conditions, but there's real no material changes to how the base flood elevation is viewed by, the development community.
hydrologic and hydraulic calculations had to be done anyway?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
Here's on section 35 through 53 that we're talking about standards for streams without an established base flood elevation. So we're talking about streams that typically don't create a flooding situation, I would assume. Is that correct? There's no base flood established for these streams? That would just be, they'd be so small that...
There has to be a study done to establish the base flood elevation.
Yeah.
Not all streams have been studied by FEMA. The vast majority have, but not all of them have.
Okay. All right. Council, if you've got questions in regards to ordinance 33-2017, if you'll address those to Mr. Grant, we'll have him copy that information back to you if that's appropriate, or we'll have that information for you at the second and final reading of ordinance number 17. Any other questions or comments in regards to ordinance 33-2017? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we'll move on to the first reading of ordinance number 42-2017. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Jared Jones located at 111 Oakdale Avenue from R20 to R15. Ms. McCormick?
Thank you, Mayor Danner. The purpose of this rezoning is for the property owner to be able to subdivide that lot into 3 lots. It currently has 1 single-family residence situated in the middle of a larger parcel in that area, and she would like to subdivide into 3 lots and place another structure on one side, and then maybe perhaps sell the other lot. I believe her mother lives in the home, and she wants to build another home for herself.
By show, excuse me, go ahead.
Therefore, they need to rezone in order to have that lot size available.
Thank you. By show of hand, is the owner of the property or a representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? The record shall indicate nobody indicated so. Council, I'll entertain a motion to receive ordinance 42-2017.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions?
I've spent some time on this particular lot, and just, it's right around the corner from me. It's in my neighborhood, and I've looked at the aerials, and it even though we're making the transition to R15, it still looks very consistent with the neighborhood, and it's really not going to be out of place. So I think what she's proposing to do is going to be a good fit for the neighborhood, and will be welcomed.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes. Next item before us this evening is the first reading of ordinance 43-2017. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of a portion of property owned by Scott Streetman located at 103 Finley Avenue from R12 to C3. Ms. McCormick?
Thank you, Mayor Danner. The purpose of this rezoning is to bring the property in the rear of Tires Unlimited into compliance. The owner of the business, Tires Unlimited, has expanded into this area, and therefore they need to have that portion of that lot rezoned. After the rezoning, they will have those lots combined into one.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Let the record indicated someone did show that they are here this evening. For purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved. Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Streetman? All right. Comments? Questions?
Just for our records, that will be, that parcel, that carved out parcel will be placed with the Tires Unlimited on the same deed. It'll become one parcel by second reading.
It may not be by second reading. I can work with the applicant to ensure that that is accomplished by then if necessary. All he has to do is prepare a plat and have that approved.
That's done by a surveyor.
Correct.
It's already done? Okay, good.
Great.
Good.
See, I'm glad you were with us this evening. You waited all that time to answer that one question. But it saved you a lot of hassle, so thank you for being here. Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaronwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, yes, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. McCormick. 2018 Greer City Council meeting schedule.
Mayor and Council, if I may provide some additional information, there's been a couple of questions concerning the proposed schedule. In February, you'll note that we are recommending one meeting on February 27th. Council will be involved on February the 6th, actually February 5th and 6th, with the Municipal Association's Hometown Legislative Action Day, which does typically require that most members of council would have an overnight stay in Columbia for that meeting. There will be some of you that will be completing the Institute and will be there for an additional day as a matter of that meeting as well. To that end, we were proposing, because of your attendance on February the 6th at that meeting, that we would hold one meeting on February the 27th. Also, you will note in September, there's a recommendation for a meeting on September the 11th. September the 25th would be your normal meeting date. We are recommending that we not, at this time, schedule that meeting. The primary reason for that is, at my request, it would allow both myself and Mike Sell to attend the International City County Management Association meeting. We feel very strongly that if you are meeting, one of us needs to be here. Because of my role now with ICMA, that means Mike doesn't get to go to the meeting. And so he and I talked through that a bit, and I'm very comfortable in asking your consideration for us to not schedule September 25th as a regular meeting date, but certainly as we get closer to that date, if we see that our business schedule is such that we need to meet, we certainly have the ability to add that as a meeting date. That's the reason that you see the schedule as presented.
Any other questions or comments in regards to the 2018 meeting schedule?
So you're saying that the week prior to February 13th, you wouldn't have opportunity to prepare the agenda as would normally be done?
No, sir. No. We could prepare the agenda. We're just in consideration. February is also typically where we will do council's strategic planning session as well. We find that February, it's not unusual with two meetings, the Municipal Association's Hometown Legislative Action Day and your strategic planning session, that it's not unusual that you would have come in for 4 consecutive weeks for those meetings. If it's council's desire that we would meet, we certainly can do that. But that's the reason for the skip in February, is because of the very busy February schedule.
Suit you?
I think we're hired to have a regular schedule of meetings. We never do a second December meeting, and we're shaving off 2 additional ones. That just seems a little disingenuous to the taxpayer. That's my opinion.
Requires action. We'll open the floor for discussion. Others? The meeting agenda as proposed. We'll have one meeting in February and one in September. We'll vote on that this evening. Obviously, there is the ability of council to redirect the administration to add those or other meetings as we see necessary or want to. With that, we have a motion and a second, Ms. Duncan. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Other comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
No.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. And the last item before us this evening before executive session is a report regarding the general election held on November 7th. This is for information only. I may have let the cat out of the bag, but
You didn't get it on time.
Ms. Duncan or Mr. Driggers, you want to give us the official report?
Certainly want to provide this as a matter of the record. The Election Commission did meet and certified the election, and so certified that the winner in City Council District 2 was Mr. Wayne B. Griffin, District 4, Mr. M. Lee Dumas, in City Council District 6, Judy P. Albert, with 123 votes to Dexter Reeves, 78, and 1 write-in vote. Commissioner of Public Works was unopposed, declaring the winner as Perry J. Williams. Again, these results are certified by the Election Commission, provided to us as a matter of record for our minutes.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations to all of you that have been elected and re-elected to your position. We thank you for your service, and thank you for your continued service. We look forward to at least 2 more years together for the current slate of folks that sit around this table, and hopefully more. As we proceed to executive session, I will ask that the motion be made as read. In executive session, we have been asked to consider one matter, that is the ACE Environmental Services contract. As a contractual matter, I'll entertain a motion to receive as stated.
Mr. Mayor, I request a motion for council to enter into executive session to discuss contractual negotiations between ACE Environmental and the city as allowed by Section 30-4-70, paragraph A, subparagraph 2.
And I'll take a second to that.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we stand in executive session. Council, in executive session, we have considered a request for a motion for council to enter into executive session to discuss contractual negotiations between ACE Environmental and the city as allowed by Section 30-4-70, Sections A and 2. We've taken no action in that regard, so do I hear a motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Mayor, before you hit that gavel, may we offer a point of order?
Please.
I was incorrect. It's a district appointment, but the person does not have to be in your district.
Well, and Ann was also regarding, that's Planning Commission. Ann said that for the Recreation Board, it had to be, the appointee had to come from the district. Is that, well, I didn't think so, because my appointee has served the 9 years and they don't live.
I think at large means.
Plus the district shift.
Right, that's right.
You know, you could have appointed them, they were in it.
The appointment is specific to the district representative and at large to the mayor, but some have residency requirements within the city, and others are not required to be residents of the city. So that's where the difference is. But the appointment is specific to the district representative. But if they
Like the construction board?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Any resident of the city can be
Muddy Waters doesn't live
In that particular
I
board.
thought he did it was.
Hmm.
No, that.
Is that
That's
clear as mud?
interesting. Clear as mud.
Clues.
Right.
Ready?